Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am a Luemas.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live here on the Fringe FM, and we're also on YouTube, Twitch, and I'm trying to get on Rumble. I put in the credentials. Maybe it's lagging or something. I did the video yesterday and it wasn't live on Rumble, and then I got on there today and the video popped up. So I don't know if I'm on there or not, but if you're listening, Karma, maybe you could tell me because I know you were over there before. The call-in number for tonight is 501-777-5631. We're going to jump right into this because our guest, his time is very precious today. And I've been trying to get this guy on the show for a while. And his name is Luemas, and he does a show called Chant It Down Radio, and it airs on the Fringe FM on Wednesdays as well. You can go to his website at chantitdownradio.com. And I really, really like this guy because he talks about a lot when it comes to how we should be thinking. So to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, brother. By the way, thanks for coming on. Finally getting to have you on there. It's cool to have you on the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I listened to your show. I liked your show because, and I was saying this the other day, like I watched this detective thing, right, where this guy was being just all of the evidence shown that he was not at a crime scene, basically. And you could listen to the detectives just manipulate this guy into where he was almost, and this is a grown man, right, crying, right? Maybe you're right. Maybe I was there committing to a crime he knows he didn't do. And it makes you wonder, like, about our mental state and how weak we are when it's, it's like we avoid conflict at all costs, And I can tell that that's something that really bothers you too,
Yeah, I do. I get annoyed by people. Well, mainly I get annoyed by the world not looking at the causal factors of what's going on instead of just looking at the symptoms. And, I like to get to the bottom of things on my show and really look at things that we can make solutions about as well. But just like really taking a deeper look at just about everything, because a lot of people just aren't thinking about where things come from and why why things are the way they are. And so that it's kind of what I've been doing on my show for a long time, amongst many other things. But yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate you having me.
Is that
on.
what inspired you? Is like, man, I want to talk to people and just tell them, like, you don't have to, just take it in the teeth, man. Right? Like, is that what you were thinking when you started the broadcast?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but like my build up to doing a podcast starting in 2013 is really just a bunch of different events that happened to me. It brought me to the truth to where I didn't go looking for this, but it came to me. So like back in 1999, I met I was randomly roommates with a much older guy who was high up in the USDA, and he kind of just explained how the world worked to me. He told me how we live in a compartmentalized society, and we don't choose our leaders, and he went through everything. It's almost like I sat down with like someone like David Icke or somebody that was really highly researched. I didn't know the question to ask this guy, but basically one thing that was the kicker for me is he told me something big was going to happen once they get George W. Bush in, and
Little Bush or Big Bush?
Little Bush.
Little Bush.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, "You watch something big." He told me something's going to happen. Well, I didn't know him much after 99. This guy left my life. I was just kind of a kid still, just partying and doing my thing. But then, all this information circulating in my head. And then 9/11 happens 2 years later. And I was like, oh, this is that thing that guy was talking about. And all this started to like make sense. And all these synchronicities had happened to me. And to the point where I started needing to speak the truth to people. And although it didn't work with my immediate family and friends, I still didn't stop. You know how that goes, is you can't really just tell the people around you. Those are like the hardest people to really get to know this stuff. But a lot of different synchronicities happen. I met another insider in 2008, and he told me a lot about chemtrails and things like that. And this was just another random situation that popped into my life. And he left me with, he said, there's a good few, he didn't call them podcasters back then, radio shows that you should check out. And I was like, oh, okay. So he just had me check out Freeman, who.
Freeman, yeah, he used to be on the Fringe for a while. We love Freeman here.
Yeah, Freeman. So then I was like, wow, this guy knows a lot of good stuff, and that kind of helped furnish my perspective. And I got to know people on what was Oracle Broadcasting. I went on Bob Tuskin's show in like 2011, and then, there was just too much coming out of me. Like I was like ready to explode all this research, and like, what the hell am I doing all this for? So in 2013, long story short, I decided I needed to put it somewhere. I'm just going to do my own show. So that's what I did in 2013. So it's like if I didn't start speaking this truth and making use of it somewhere, it was just useless, and it came to me without me looking for it. So I figured I must be meant to speak all this to people, and I checked it out, researched it. All this stuff is true. It's just people don't want to accept it. So that's what I started doing in 2013, and been doing it since.
I feel like the censorship, I could be wrong, I hope I'm right, but I feel like the censorship is lifted a little bit since like Rogan and a couple other people really stood their ground on fighting some of this stuff, like I don't know if it was the right way. I wish it would have happened sooner, but like, yeah. I mean, he's even told people, look, I'll pay you to come on and debate some of these people. I just want the truth. And anytime you just want the truth or just want to talk about it, they just seems like people want to shut you up. And I think that happens. I think we're kind of trained on like that individually, right? And I was talking about this yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, where if you tell someone your truth, or if you have a genuine, authentic question, you just start getting gaslit like crazy, or there's all kinds of social engineered stuff to happen. And to me, it's just crazy how fast a crowd can just go with the flow without even doing their research, but
Yeah, the crowd mind.
Yeah, man. Like I don't understand it. I guess it's just that I hope some people say, well, it's human nature. I don't want to believe that, man. I really don't. Like,
oh, I don't think it is. I think it's programmed nature. I think it's socially programmed by social engineers, and you can see it. We're programmable humans. Like, that's what we are. And so, I mean, we're kind of a blank slate. It just depends on how you're raised. So I think if you took someone that was raised in like one of these uncontacted tribes out in the middle of Papua New Guinea or the Amazon or somewhere in Africa, they'd be a totally different human being because they haven't had media control them. They haven't had all this shit in their food. Oh, sorry, I don't know.
That's cool. You're good.
Oh, man. Yeah. Bad stuff in their food and water. You know, they'd be totally different human beings with totally different train of thought. And so I just think that humans are programmable, and they're easily programmed, and our controllers know that, and they know where to bring us to at the right events to make the fear instinct come out of us, and they know how to manipulate it. They have the playbook on us, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, Karma Michelle said Jim Morrison conducted many social engineering experiments on his crowd and just proved it. Facebook did it, and they came out and said it later. We did social experiments to see if we could change narratives, right? And everybody's like, oh, really? Oh, cool. You know, and it's like, that's not cool.
No.
You know, like, why are you saying, oh, cool? Well, it's Facebook. We can't do anything about it. It's like, I understand people get overwhelmed because of how big certain things are, but it's just like any other bully or guy at the poker table with all the chips, man. You got to sit in there and fight. You can't. I have more respect for that than just someone saying, well, that's just how it is, and doing nothing, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the defeatist attitude out there is really bad, actually. I mean, I don't know. So we got to live our lives. So there's a balance. There's one side, well, okay, we got to do regular life because it's, you know, we got to maintain some of that anyway. But then the other side of it is like, we're being played constantly, and we're just going to sit back and let this happen to us. It's just like, I don't see why more people aren't more proactive, but I guess the fluoride's working really well, and everything else is working really well. I don't know. That's just, I'm surprised. When COVID happened, especially when COVID happened, I was actually more disappointed in humanity. I thought humanity was smarter than that, but I was
well, at least smart enough to
ask
ask questions, right? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, even if you believe in, like, one person believes that, like there was all kinds of stuff, right? Like, the virus is real. The virus isn't real. It's real, right, but it was made. And these are, to me, it's like, okay, well, these are all good questions. Like, the first thing that happened was a division happened, and you could see it happening immediately. Like, it's just like the bully in the schoolyard. If you don't take it, everybody take my side and point your finger at that guy. You know what I'm saying? And like, so it's not hard to stand up to. I mean, Rogan showed people how to do it. Everybody should have did it then, though. You know. Yeah.
Well, I can see this happening, and I think it's intelligence agencies that mess with the alternative media too, in a way, and put out division, because like with 9/11, there was the no plane people and the plane people, and you know, they want us all arguing about the semantics of all these things rather than like coming together and looking at the bigger picture of it. Yeah, we can argue about all these little details about no virus or virus till the cows come home, but then like what? Then we're just, you know, we got nowhere. So and I've been turned off by that more recent days about the alternative media and how many details people are stuck on about, and that even goes into like the ufology too. Like, are they aliens? Are they demons? You get all these people, oh no, they don't exist. And, you know, there's all these different people trying to say all these different things, but not just looking at what is happening, you know, and I get frustrated with that myself. And also another thing that frustrates me, and I'm sure it frustrates you as well, is no nuanced thinking. Everybody's kind of just black or white, one way or the other. And it's almost no different than the left-right paradigm in some ways. Like, you know, the way people are looking at things. It's just another way of their minds stuck in, there was no planes on 9/11, or there's, just all these little arguing points, and we never get anywhere.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what you said before. There's in my opinion, like there's a narrative that where you're taught more evolution in biology, and you're this way because of evolution in biology, and morality is subjective, and then it's like, okay, well, that kind of weakens everybody, number one, and then when people say, well, like we're not programmable, we were born this way. No, I mean, if you go into the studies of epigenetics and all this stuff, it factually shows biologically and psychologically we are 100% programmable. We're just programmable, period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the new science even shows it. So there's an agreement between science and the so-called tinfoil hat people right there. Right. I mean, and there is objective truth, and I think there's a lot of people that are still stuck in like, you can't define truth. It's like, actually you can, just like, there's dirt on the ground. That's truth. There's grass growing out of the dirt. Yeah. I mean, truth is actually really simple. It's just people complicate things more than anything. Yeah, for sure. And is that something that you kind of stay on, or do you get into a little bit more of a culture thing? Or like, what do you mean by you? Well, first, before we go down that road, what's the biggest frustration about ufology to you? Is it because people are just asking questions that you think are relevant right now?
No, my biggest, let's see, what frustrates me? I guess with ufology, what frustrates me the most is, I guess, arguing factions, just like with other things too. I think, I want to get to the truth, and it's a hard thing to get to the truth about, because we're talking about things that we have to kind of fill in the blanks here. But
sure.
I guess what frustrates me, actually, I might be offending people out there, but
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
what frustrates me the most in modern times about ufology is the flat Earth people, because they completely are like trying to say that we're the only planet in existence, and the stars and planets are like lights in the sky, and it just like there's no space, and I've done shows with some other people about debunking the whole space is fake thing, because and you just have to do a little more research. This flat Earth thing, to me, is a psyop in the truth community.
I think it is too.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think it is too. I mean, everything in nature creates a sphere, like everything. Right. So everything in nature that it's observable, infinitely and finitely, as it grows, whatever it does, it creates a sphere. But you're going to tell me the place that we're here is Legoland, right?
Right.
That's what you're going to tell me. And I don't have to look into what is this coming up on the horizon, or do the math on this and that. I honestly think it's an addiction to an intellectual stimulation that they enjoy. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it's attached to, I guess it's attached to religion too. I mean, and I don't have a problem with the Bible or anything, but I just think that people are trying to make out that in the beginning, the beginning in Genesis, they're talking about the firmament being this like layer that's above our heads and nothing can escape. I don't think that's what it's saying at all. And I mean, there's a lot of room for interpretation, but yeah, I just think it's a big psyop, because I remember I've been around long enough to see there was a lot of cohesiveness in the community of truth and stuff. And then when 2014 happened, around that time, I noticed a shift and a line that like an argument in the truth community. And ever since then, it's been kind of fractured.
Is that when it started? The flat Earth thing? 2014?
Yeah, I feel like it did. Yeah. And although I think ufology there is some, charlatans and people that spread a lot of bullshit in it too. Mm. And those people need to be vetted and stuff as well. But it's like there's just a big fracture in the truth-seeking community since around there. I just started to notice more people trying to argue with me about things like ufology, and I heard more stuff online about it around 2014. And I think I've talked to other people and they kind of agree with me around there, I think there was a documentary by Eric Dubay put out around that time about flat earth, and that really like got people going on that tangent.
I totally think that is. I wonder if maybe not a psyop, but if it was somebody that was like, I'm going to start the craziest rumor you've ever, and just see what happens, and just sit back and watch it trickle away, I mean, it could have been something like that, but I don't really, I think I've had one person maybe on the show and talked about flat earth, but it's like, you can tell when you get into the debates and arguments about it that I start to feel like you're addicted to this thing, right? Like you're addicted to it because they're so hardcore about it, It
becomes like it's like a religion, and I've even lost friends through it in this community.
Really?
Where they like now think that way, and I don't. So I'm like, yeah. So I see it as, hey, if you're going to make a division in otherwise was a pretty solid community, at least I thought, that's a perfect one to do it. And it makes us look stupid that talk about the real truth information, because they'll go, oh, and I bet you believe the earth is flat too, some normie talking, and it's like, then we get nowhere, so that's how I feel about it. And I've done a lot of travel on this planet. Luckily I'm not a rich guy or anything, but I save up and travel, and I've visited a lot of ancient sites because I'm interested in that stuff. But I've nearly flown a circle on this planet, and I easily could have. And I'm like, okay, how does this fit on a flat Earth model?
Right.
And I mean, it doesn't. So anyway, I don't mean to get on a flat Earth tangent.
No,
but
it's fine.
About what's happened to ufology. Going back to that, because there was some great things going on there, and then all of a sudden, flat Earth comes, and then someone like you or me talking about ufology gets basically like pestered by flat earthers, and emailing me these like threats. Even I'm like, what the?
Space is not real. Yeah, that's what I get all the time. It's not real. Yeah. I'm like, here we go. Yeah. I mean, because people faked pictures. Okay, well. Or there's some edited video that they found. Well, there's edited videos and all kinds of other things that have nothing to do with space from other different organizations, programs, even your local church. But no one says, well, they're hiding something, like maybe they did need to cover up some kind of something that was, I don't know, what did we call it when I worked at Verizon? It's a phrase that you can't let people see certain things because it's private information. So they don't get doxxed or things like that,
Well, yeah, and I think if anything, more likely they're covering up what's really going on up there. If anything, if they're not going to show us,
exactly
what's up there. Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's fake. Now the moon landing's a whole other discussion for sure for me, but like it doesn't mean all of space is fake and the Earth is flat. And that's what I think we were talking about, like that black and white nuance or whatever,
Yeah, lack of nuance, like, because since space is fake, the Earth must be flat. That kind of thinking. It's just like, whoa, like how do you get there just like that, and just dismiss? There's so much to dismiss with the flat earthers dismiss, and they really need to take another look at. It's best to put it all through. Like I looked at it, I didn't just dismiss it right away. I entertained it. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happens if we start. So I put all the information together, gathered it as much as I could, put it through the filter, and I realized, wait a minute, this isn't adding up. And I still, I give it a chance at least, but a lot of these people aren't giving anything else a chance. It's like you said, it's like this belief system that they have out there.
Now, do you do your show just totally? Do you have guests on? Because I know you've had guests on, but my favorite shows that you've done, I remember I was walking down the street in like BFE, Florida, like Central Florida, where there's nothing around, and I was bored, and I was like, well, I'm going to listen to Luemas' show, and I listened to that stuff all night, and a lot of it was just you talking,
Yeah, I have guests on. Because I live in Hawaii, I think that it's hard to get guests on. Our time zones are harder. So,
Yeah.
and I like to keep my feed going. So if I can't get a guest on, oh well, I'll just do a solo.
That's what I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to line up. As you know, we've been trying to get this going for a few weeks, and it just works that way. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to mess with trying to schedule people forever. So, and make a big blank space in where my fans are, wanting to hear new shows. So I'll just put out a solo, and, it seems to work that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. I like hearing that stuff sometimes. Thanks. Yeah, because you at that point in time, you really get to know a person's thoughts too, because there's no pressure to do the interview. So you can really hear what someone's thinking down to their core about stuff. And again, I know you got to go here in like 10 minutes, and we're going to get back into Manly P Hall after Luemas leaves. But one of the biggest things I really wanted to tell everybody about with you is the strength of the mentality that you have that I admire in people. But I also think it should be natural. Like, I think it's been taken away from us too, it shouldn't be something that, I really admire the fact that you can stand up for yourself, right? Like, we should all do that. You know what I'm saying? And think for yourself, right? Like, but it's not, I'm not saying people don't. It just seems like this, with the whole COVID thing, for sure showed me that we just go along with whatever because we don't want the conflict or the change or the discomfort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think people are afraid to be outside the crowd mind. And I can understand it, because it goes back to probably tribal things where you don't want to be ousted by the tribe kind of thing. But I don't know. I've always been kind of a soloist as far as early on. How I even met that in 1999, I met that Insiders because I broke off from doing what normal people do. I decided instead I want to do what I want to do and not do a job. So I got fired from a job. Yeah, it's great. You get fired from a job. I had unemployment and I used credit cards, which wasn't wise, but whatever. I floated my boat for a while and did what I wanted to do. And I learned more about the world and myself than in that amount of time than I really ever have since, just because I had free time not to focus on a job like you did. So it's just something really valuable about that. But when you get comfortable in yourself and you know the truth, then you just you're not afraid to be outside the tribe, and you realize that a lot of people are just programmed anyway. They might be nice, they might be great people, but they're still programmed, and they're a bit crazy or totally crazy in some cases. And you just have to realize that, and it's not you.
Yeah, for sure. I took the same mentality when I started seeing the slave thing, and I started seeing the money system as it really is. And I was like, well, this is really, if you provide value, you get compensated for it. So why am I programmed to think that I have to give somebody 40 hours of something I hate doing or more for the lowest pay I can possibly have? Or if I don't do that, I'm going to be homeless, or my life's going to be ruined, or everything's going to go to hell. And it just didn't turn out that way at all, because turns out we have all kinds of things that are valuable to people other than working for major corporations,
Yes. Yeah. And when you get out on your own, it's scary, but that's where synchronicity comes in. That's where unique things happen to you that would never happen to you in the work world, and just the example of me meeting two insider kind of people is because I didn't live in the normal pattern of going to work every day, coming home, watching TV, taking care of the kids, that kind of thing. I didn't do that. And I think because I didn't do that, I found new patterns and ways of life on this planet. And also, it also diffuses the fear that you have. I mean, it's scary when you go out on a limb, but you realize that you can be caught and you're not going to fall. You're not going to die. You're not going to be a homeless bum on the street because you're not self-loathing. You can
be if you're self-loathing and you just go down a spiral, definitely. But it's totally your choice, right? Like, you don't have to be.
You don't have to be. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you can do it. And when I wandered around for a long time, I continued to see, random things that I would never see in my life. Like the following year, I saw a UFO kind of up close, and that changed my life again forever. So it's just like, I wouldn't have done that had I been doing regular life. And that's the thing, is regular people don't experience much outside the system. And so because they don't, they end up just becoming disbelievers.
It's like institutionalized almost, right? In a sense. Yeah. Stockholm syndrome in a sense. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. There's been hard times, recently. Like, there's been hard times doing this stuff. What I do, like even really hard times. But man, I still felt more miserable working because I wasn't free, like to me, it's like you put in the work in, and you provide value. If you don't get something for it, then you need to do something different and provide value. Have you ever read that book, like the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
No.
I've never heard of it. That book is so great. It was like, it changed my whole viewpoint on work, right? Like, I thought work was go to work. That's what I thought work was. I go to a place and I work, and that's where my value is. And I need to rise up through the ranks or go to school and learn something so I can get paid a little bit more. And if I make $100,000 a year or more, then I'm middle class or high society. I'm not a loser, right? That was the whole program. And that book changed it, because he was like, if you end up doing actually more work for what you really want to do,
Yeah, that sounds like a good book. I just pulled it up right here. Maybe I should just grab it off.
Sometimes Amazon way more work for way less pay, but you learn so much about yourself and your failures. Like, if you go to work and you fail at work, you're like, okay, whatever, I'll just fix it. And it doesn't really mean anything to you. You just don't want to get fired. But if you do what you love and you fail, it means a lot to you, and you really learn something, not only about yourself, but whatever craft that you're doing too, Well,
yeah. And if you think about like what some people did during the lockdowns, they actually, there was a whole slew of new podcasts that came out during that time, because people had time, and people didn't want to go back to work. And I think a lot of people kind of still held on to what they could with their stimulus money and tried to not go back to work, and more people realized that. So yeah, I think that if you just have some time away from work, which we all did, and if you use it right, you can really you can invent something way better than just going somewhere just to, make the wage.
Yeah. And so much of that is mental too. And I think that's another thing that I forgot. I should have mentioned at the beginning, is one of the things I really related to you is your mentality about this whole thing is kind of like mine. Because some people, when like they'll do what they love doing, or they'll try something, and it's like this weird S-curve thing that happens. So they see this big dream, my whole life can be different, and they go to do the work, and once they go do the work, they get up the hill and they realize, oh man, there's something hard about this, or there's something that I didn't know I had to do that's not it's not fun, or I don't know about this. And instead of grinding that out or making a sacrifice or whatever, they just either go back to work or let's try something new. And then they go back up that wave again, and the same thing happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Instead of just sticking with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I admire what you're doing too. I mean, you're sticking with something you love to do, and it feels like it's the right thing to do. And that's why I've done my show for so long. It's the right thing to do. Sometimes I'm like, am I really spending my time right? This, my inner thoughts going like, should I really keep this podcast going? I mean, because it does take up a lot of time. But I'm like, you know what? It's the right thing to do. Because I would love to if it supported my whole life, but it's okay because it gives me that thing to vent out to the world, and people relate, as well as just, it's like once you know the truth, what's good about keeping it inside you? It's just you're doing yourself a disservice, I think. So
Sure.
yeah, that's why I've kept on doing this. I mean, even if it's, not really floating my boat, but I don't care. It's like, it's what needs to happen and what needs to be done. It's the great work that needs to be done.
Yeah, it becomes your work. Yeah, I would highly recommend reading that book or get the audio book and listen to it.
Yeah.
Because
it's already I already Googled. Yep, I got it right here. So I'm check it out.
Because I really think that people should listen to your show if they like this kind of mentality. Just any show that helps you become a stronger person and question things a little bit more. Because there's 1,000 people that can put on great presentations and still tell you a bunch of stuff that is absolutely crap, or it's not.
Yep.
It's not true. And their presentations are so great and their charisma is so good that it's really easy to go, yeah, you're probably right. But
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But I could go into that all day long. I know you got a schedule to keep here, man, so I won't keep you. But if you want to plug anything right now would be the time. And thanks for coming on, brother.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Luemas, and yes, my show, Chin It Down podcast, is on any podcast player out there. I do, if you'd like to support the show a bit more, I have a Patreon show called Afterthoughts, and I am currently making a documentary right now, which is including a lot of footage from all these ancient sites around the world and putting together with some good truth speakers. And I that's pretty much what I do. I do have an Instagram account. You can find me there, Chin It Down, and a Telegram account under the same name. I don't do a lot of social media, and that's probably why some people have never heard of me, because I don't have time to self-promote. I really only have time to do the podcast, but it's ongoing, and I get guests on there and all kinds of subject matter. ChinItDownRadio.com is the website where you can kind of really check it out, especially my mini series of shows. You can check out all the different subject matter, because really this information, as we went all over the place, covers all kinds of different avenues, so it has to be all covered, at least in my opinion. So, and
he's really interactive too. Like I noticed that you interact with your audience or answer their questions as much as possible and tell them thank you and stuff, and
yeah,
people love that. So
yeah, I do a live stream when I can, and I try to take callers, and as well as anyone wants to email me, they can at peoplebeyondthis@gmail.com.
Right on. All right,
I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
I'll have to get you on my show, and we'll keep doing some stuff.
Right on, man. We'll do it again. Thanks for coming on, Luemas.
Thank you.
You take care, brother.
All right. Take care.
There goes Luemas, y'all. Yeah. I've actually been trying to get him on for quite some time, but he is a busy guy. So I thought tonight that we would get back into the occult works, these short essays that Manly P. Hall did. Manly P. Hall did these short essays where he really revealed a lot of secret stuff. He's got a whole bunch of lectures that cover general things, and even The Secret Teachings of All Ages is a great book, and it has a ton of information in it. But there's a few short essays that he did, like the one that we read yesterday, The Occult Anatomy of Man, and a couple other ones. And I think we'll get into another one tonight where it's the stuff that he says is so profound, it's kind of freaky. It's kind of creepy, But yeah, go check out his show too. Like, I like Luemas, and I'm not just saying that, not just because he's on the fringe. We do vet who comes on the fringe and stuff. I really like his show. I like the way he thinks, and I think we have a lot in common. And it's another podcast you should check out and listen to for sure. And he airs on Wednesday nights. So, if you guys like the book readings, that's great too. I started out doing this broadcast having guests on. I think, I've had Robert Schock on here, John Anthony West, Jordan Maxwell. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I really wanted to pick people's minds and try to find questions. That was how I started. I just wanted to ask these people questions I don't think anyone's asked them, or make it a little bit more personable. And then, the network thing kind of happened. And so I just went from there. And now I'm trying to make it more about the conscious exploration, the out-of-body stuff, the more the esoteric information, and a little bit of hidden history. Because I noticed in the poll that we did that I put on YouTube that you guys wanted more shows about that. And here's the thing, like, I don't mind diving into that stuff, but like, that is actually, you know how some people say, well, you'll never know anything about, there's some things that you'll never know about, like what happens after we die and all of these things. I don't believe that. I think we could figure it out if we really put our attention into it and focused on having out-of-body experiences and exploring consciously things like that. And I think we could really figure out what happens. And I do think that William Buellman and Robert Monroe, and I would say especially William Buellman and Thomas Campbell, are a couple of people that have come really close as far as being able to see that realm and then come back and talk to us. However, with that being said, I don't want to be like negative, you know, don't be negative or whatever, but hidden history, there's so much stuff there that can be uncovered that probably will never be uncovered. That this is going to sound weird, but psychologically, I can't handle knowing that because I really want to know the truth, right? I do. And there are things that we've uncovered that it's been fascinating, like the giant stuff, the buried giants, Göbekli Tepe. There's many things that we've discovered that have more questions. But to me, it's almost where you get to the point where it's like, well, what books were in the Library of Alexandria? We're never going to be able to read them. Not right now. That's something that I don't think we'll ever be able to do. Now, someone might come around and say, yeah, we can go to, I can go in the Akashic Records and go and read a book. Yeah, but it's not the same thing. It's not really the same thing. But I think the text that we're going to get into tonight will go into that. So, yeah, let me make sure the phone lines are open. Also, I'm trying to get on Rumble. I put in the server URL. I put in the stream key. It's the right channel. It's just not going to it. So, I don't know. I have no idea. What's up? I want to say what's up to Michael. I want to see those pictures, brother. You send me those pictures of your t-shirt. All right. We'll go ahead and take the break, and then when we come back, I'll get the book up. The book that we're going to get into tonight, it's not a book. It's just like a little manuscript, kind of like we did last night. But I think it's packed full of some interesting information. It's called What the Ancient Wisdom Expects from Its Disciples. And yes, it's Masonic, but there's a couple of things in there that I think we should really look at. And I hope we get to them, because it took me 2 hours to do the other one last night. So I don't know if we'll be able to finish it tonight. But here's the thing. No, I don't want to say that yet. I'm known for saying, yeah, let's do this, or I'm going to do something, and then my ADD goes somewhere. I don't want to do that. But we'll get into it for sure tonight. So we'll be right back. But you can call in too. Just because we're reading doesn't mean you can't. You can call in anytime you want. You can chime in. 501-777-5631. Stay with us.